Good evening. The City of Riverbank Regular Council and Local Redevelopment Authority Board meetings now in session. Today is Tuesday, August 27th, 2019. The time is 6 p.m. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
please remain standing.
Could we have a moment of silence for the sanitation worker that lost his life? Heavenly Father, Jesus, we come to you tonight with praise and thanksgiving on our hearts and in our minds. We come to you tonight, Heavenly Father, thanking you for the many blessings you have bestowed upon this community. We ask, Heavenly Father, Jesus, that you would be with this council tonight, Heavenly Father, that you would give them the wisdom to make the decisions that needs to be made for this community and for the people that live here. We thank you, Heavenly Father, Jesus, because you place leadership in office, Heavenly Father. We know, Heavenly Father, Jesus, tonight we can come to you and ask, Heavenly Father, Jesus, and you tell us that we have not because we ask not. And tonight we're asking for wisdom and strength. And Heavenly Father, Jesus, we just ask that you be with the family of Ismael Martinez Urbas, the sanitation worker. Be with his family tonight, Heavenly Father. Just bless them. Wrap your arms around them and give them comfort, Heavenly Father. We ask that you be with each and every one in this city, the employees, those, Heavenly Father, Jesus, the first responders, our police department, fire department, guide them and keep them safe. We ask all these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Council Authority Member District 1, Luis Uribe.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 2, Cindy Fossey.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 3, Cal Campbell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chair Darlene Barber Martinez.
Here.
Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. Changes to the agenda. We will have a change. Tonight, we have Mr. Jilton in attendance, and I'd like you, sir, to come step up and give us a quick update on what's going on.
We had a tragic accident yesterday in your city. A man lost his life. A wife lost her husband. Children lost their father. Parents lost a son. Not a light thing at our place. 72 years of business. First time we've ever experienced this kind of thing. It's a tragic. Our hearts and prayers go out to the family. I can't say I know a few staff members and some of you folks have come, and what can we do? Prayers right now for the family, holding them up. I cannot imagine what they're going through. We've had meetings all day with our employees. They're grieving because every individual could say, that could have been me. This could have happened. So we have set in place some professional grievers, counselors to come tomorrow and Thursday for our employees and continue that on and do that, and trying to make that work. But in the meantime, trying to figure out actually what caused the accident. It's hopefully you're not getting all your facts from the social media, because I don't think they're professionals in their positions, but there's a lot of that going on. But it's kind of, you can't hardly explain how did this actually happen. So we've got to figure that out before we can solve the problem, and never let that happen again. So it's, those kind of things are being done. I can say the responders for the city of Riverbank, I personally got to work up close and personal with them yesterday on this matter for several hours, and I can't say enough about them. To me, they went beyond the call of duty to do what they needed to do, and even consulting us and comforting us in ways that I've never been in a position like that, but they did a lot of things they didn't have to do, in my opinion. And so just a plug for them. When you hear negative stuff, I say 10 or 20 positives for those. So I'm thankful for them folks also. So we'll deal with it, we'll work with it. I know there's a vigil coming up next week, and I'm sure it's going to be well attended. And that's, I think, is important for the family at this time to figure out how to try to find a closure somehow, which probably never will happen in our lifetime. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, sir. The vigil actually is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at Donner Trail and Homeward, where the accident happened.
I thought it was next week. Is it this week?
It's supposed to be tomorrow,
Oh, okay, my bad. I've had too many things going on.
understandably. Continuing on, any council or authority member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. Seeing none, item 1.1 is a proclamation for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I'm not going to read the proclamation because there's no one to receive it, but I will read the staff report that goes with it. This is as a request from the Perez family, is to raise awareness about childhood cancer because their daughter, Jordan, passed away from a rare undiagnosed blood cancer at the age of 17. Because of this, the family joined the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to promote awareness and raise funds with their Light the Night campaign. Efforts and ongoing research to find cures for childhood cancer are only possible with the help of communities and money donated for such research. The hope is to bring and raise awareness to the community of Riverbank. Personally, I know a young lady who just turned 21, just got married, prime of her life, just was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she just started her first of 5 months worth of chemo, and at the end, she'll have a double mastectomy. So, please, everyone, if you can, get checked. And she has no genes associated with the cancer. Item 2, public comment. No action can be taken at this time. Members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city or the LRA. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per person, and each person may speak only once during this time. Time cannot be yielded to another person. Under state laws, matter presented during public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence. Please make your comments directly to the LRA Council. Is there any public comment? Please just come on up.
After hearing all this, I'm not sure what I want to say. We also lost Diana McGinnis, who has been very active. She passed away last week. My name's Bruce Edwards. I live at 246 Topeka Street. I've lived in Riverbank since 1975. Just a little bit about me. I am an active and original member of Friends of Jacob Myers Park. I've been the treasurer for the entire duration and was in charge of the first project, or helped direct it, with Sue Fitzpatrick when we put in the playground equipment. I'm here to discuss that. I'd like to let you know that I have been an active member here in the community. 40 plus years coaching. In fact, I have to leave at 6:30 to get to a coaching assignment. I was a planning commissioner for 12 years and chairperson of the planning commission for 2, and I was on the original recreation commission for ever how long that lasted. Anyway, what I'm talking about is phase 4. I want the city to be aware of what's happening, and there'll be another person that wants to speak in their own time for public comments, Jim Screw, who I'd like to talk about. Phase 4 of the Jacob Myers Park is getting the bike trail. Scott McRitchie and I went back there many times, and that was a thought and a very important thing to him to get that trail made, actually a hiking trail, bike trail. And we have somebody that's very interested in pursuing it. There have been a few. He wants to raise money to donate to Friends of Jacob Myers and hopes that it will go toward possibly signage and usage for getting that trail. It'll be up to the Friends of Jacob Myers Park to vote on it this Thursday when we have our meeting. We should have had a meeting earlier, but it got canceled, and unfortunately, Jim, not unfortunately, but Jim has been pursuing this because you're trying to figure out which comes first, getting the public interest or getting the council to approve. So he's going to show that there's public interest. Jim Screw has been active in this community. He grew up in the area. He went to Downey High School. He was a long distance runner. I want to talk about him a little bit. One of the top runners in the state. He lived practically on the river. He knows the river. He ran a canoe business out of the city of Riverbank behind the post office in the 80s. He knows the river probably better than anybody and that area. He played with a guy that some of you may know, the former Fire Chief Preston Tucker's son. That's who he grew up with. So he lives on Crawford Road now. He'll tell you about that. But he's got a fundraiser going on at, I think, Brenda Athletics Club coming in September, and the money is all supposed to go to the Friends of Jacob Myers, toward hopefully pursuing the bike trail. Talking with Sue Fitzpatrick, she believes that the Corps of Engineers, with the city believing that we can maintain a trail, is finally ready to do a lease. We've been trying to get a lease done for nearly 18 years, and it's been very frustrating, especially for me. Originally, I was involved because I was the cross-country coach for 30 years at Riverbank, and we used to run in this area all the way back there. But then as things changed, Yahi Bowman's area got closed, we got closed, we no longer run there. We run on the asphalt part, the kids do. I'm not actually a current active paid cross-country coach, I'm a volunteer. I actually coach the tennis team now. Anyway, I want you to be aware of what's happening. In the future, I think Jim's gonna ask you to put it on the agenda. Because the city has to approve the maintenance that they can maintain it once the general plan has come up, which is in the next 10 months, for the project to proceed, for them to sign the lease. And when you see stuff in the paper, what's going on, it's just fundraising to bring money toward, hopefully, that project happening. Jim knows there's no guarantee at this time. And that's all I want to say. Okay.
Hello, my name is Melissa Santos. I'm here representing Congressman Josh Harder. I live in Modesto, California, and I'd like to share with the city of Riverbank that I'm very excited to be here and learn about what's going on in the city of Action, and to share that the congressman has federal casework services offered from his office. We help people that have issues with a federal agency such as USCIS, Social Security, or veterans issues. And I'd like to invite everyone to subscribe for the congressman's newsletter to know what he's working on and where he'll, where he's going to be having town halls and open office hours, so the constituents can meet with him one-on-one. And you can sign up on harder.house.gov. And I'll be here. So feel free to catch me here at the meeting if you have any questions or would like one of our casework flyers. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, Russell Fowler, Assembly Member Heath Ward's office. Good to be back with you tonight. I had planned a legislative update, but I'm gonna put that off to the next meeting because nothing can be more important than saying that we grieve with the community and really feel their pain about this tragic accident. We stand with the community, obviously, very tragic, and with the family. So I just wanted to say that, and the rest of it can wait till another meeting. But very sorry to hear about the accident, and look forward to attending the vigil tomorrow. Thank you, Russell. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Chagru. I live at 1519 Crawford Road, which is the Modesto side of Crawford Road. My message tonight is about attaching a downstream property onto Jacob Myers Park by creating a run, ride, hike trail system on that property, thus tripling the size of the park. These are my goals. Number 1, build 5 miles of dirt single-track loops along the 1.5 miles of river frontage owned by the Army Corps of Engineers with volunteer community labor. Number 2, to install a dirt double-track trail down the length of the park to accommodate an all-terrain vehicle to patrol and respond to emergencies. This flow-type trail design will follow a something for everyone theme and allow all levels and ages of riders and hikers to enjoy the trail. Number 3, to install extensive trailhead signage about proper use of the park and trail. Number 4, to install environmental education signs throughout the trail detailing the ecology and history of the area. Number 5, to provide a loaner life jacket supply at all the swimming beaches along this property. Number 6, to install a trail donation box to fund trail projects and trail upkeep. Number 7, to create an initial war chest of funds to pay for the construction cost and the signage of the project. A September 14th fundraiser at Modesto Brenda Athletic Club will start that fund, and proceeds will be given to the Friends of Jacob Myers Park for future use in the project. Number 8, to continue to assist the Friends group and the city with regular trail volunteer maintenance and modifications, as well as organizing special events that would be held there. Examples of these events are cross-country races, triathlon-style races, school environmental and education trips, nature group and art group visitations. Number 9, to manage and protect the park area to ensure it retains its wilderness riparian qualities. Number 10, to encourage the use of the trails by the handicapped community with whatever special adapted vehicles they would use for that particular trail type. Number 11, to utilize social media to inform, advertise, and educate about the park trails and allow users to share their experiences. Number 12, to post trail information on the mountain bike trail finder websites. Number 13, to maintain a volunteer maintenance labor pool to regularly work on the trail. Thank you for letting me speak, and my hope is, at a future date, the city will adopt this plan, build the trail, and open up this wonderful and unique resource to the public. There's a great deal of public enthusiasm for this type of resource, and I believe it will become a go-to favorite in the area for all those who enjoy an outdoor urban wilderness, healthy exercise, and the beautiful Stanislaus River. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Justin Bachman. I'm the Mid-State Regional Compliance Manager for the Construction Industry Force Account Council. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring state and local governments' compliance with the California Public Contract Code. I'm here today to offer our resources and assistance with any construction-related procurement questions the city may come across. We are well-versed in all areas of the California Public Contract Code. This includes, but is not limited to, advertising requirements, bid thresholds, force account usage, emergency declarations, project accounting procedures, and the Uniform Construction Cost Accounting Act, which the city of Riverbank is a participant of. Our services are free of charge to elected officials, county employees, contractors, and the general public. You can find more information about us and our organization, as well as my contact info at our website at www.cifac.org. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to assisting the city in any way I can.
Good evening. Eva Nash, Riverbank resident. I am here today because I went to a meeting in January where we were talking about the homeless situation in Riverbank and the solutions that were being looked into. I came because we had a children's event at Community Praise Tabernacle in June, and when I arrived with others to set up, there was there was an individual there laying down, and since there's going to be children soon, I very politely said, "Oh, we're going to have children. Is it okay if you move?" And the person just ignored me, and then he looked at me, and his visage was terrifying, and so I just went away, and I did not feel comfortable calling the police because where I live, there is a lot of homeless and prostitutes who walk up and down the street, and I recognized the individual, and so I was like, oh, he knows where I live. So I didn't feel comfortable with that. And not only that, there has been feces behind the church building, and there was an individual that actually took camp behind the church in a tree, and we didn't bother him. But I'm stating this out of concern, not only for community members, but I'm stating this for concern for the individuals. I don't know how we got it, that it's compassionate to let mentally ill individuals live on the streets. I don't know how that's compassion. That seems counterintuitive to me. So that was a big concern that I have because it makes my children afraid, and we talk about it. No, they're either mentally ill or they're addicted to drugs, or they had something happen and they weren't able to get housing. I know the situations are different, but that is one of the things that I was concerned about. And I know we're not going to have this conversation, but where we are since that conversation in January. Another thing is I worked in the summer for the school, the elementary school, and different parents told me that they do not take their children to the park. They don't take their children to the park because of needles. They don't take their children to the park because there's drug use, marijuana use in public, in park. They don't take their children to the park because they're afraid. And I know there's supposed to be an expansion of the community park, but who's going to be utilizing that park? I think that we need to be very even in how we're dealing with this, and yes, be compassionate, but also think about the families that live here, the health of the families, the health of the children, the economy. So I just wanted to bring that to the forefront, and I don't know where we're at. I don't know if there's going to be another meeting about that, but that's kind of where I'm at, and so that's all I wanted to say, and I hope that I could be part of the solution because I don't want to just bring up problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff, residents of Riverbank. My name's Deanna Garcia, and I want to first say I'm sorry to hear about your friend, Mayor, who came down with breast cancer. And I'd like to bring awareness that on September 14th from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we'll have free mammograms in the city parking lot across the street from 6609 3rd Street, Riverbank. They will be there during the sip and stroll. If you don't have insurance or whatever the case may be, it's a test that is there that could save your life or help you down the health line. Another reason I would like to, I'm here tonight is I'd like to ask for the City Council to please put on the agenda that FFA Inc., Riverbank Cannabis Collective, be allowed to have on-site consumption. We would like to be able to tell our patients how to use their medicine and have dosing classes and education classes. It's one thing to sell them a product and tell them to go home and try it. It's another thing to be able to open the product and explain to them how to utilize it. And of course, we're not asking for smoking on site or something such as you may assume as soon as you hear on-site consumption. We're asking for an education health center. When we first came to the city of Riverbank, we wanted to be a health center, a public place for people over 21 or people of age to be able to come in and utilize this medicine and different services that we offer. So I'm asking for us to have on-site consumption, for it to be put on the agenda. I'm also asking for delivery service to be put on the agenda for my delivery service component for FFA, as that will help me to be able to reach more people and give access to safe, clean medicine to more residents that are not able to make it in. And then I want to say, as the daughter of a sanitation worker, my dad did 38 years for the city of Sacramento. My heart goes out to the family who lost their father and husband and loved one. And for the homeless situation, I would like to be a help. I am on the point in time count, and I would like to be some type of resource to the city in bringing some help to our people who are less fortunate here in the city of Riverbank. And for the park, I think it's an awesome idea to expand the park, because you'll be able to get outside, enjoy fresh air, get exercise, and it sounds like the Jacob Myers people who are in charge are already looking for funding, and then they're looking for volunteers to keep it up afterwards, and I think it would be a great accent to the city of Riverbank. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your name? Deanna Garcia. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Ortiz. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran and the coordinator for a veterans organization called Veterans Walk and Talk. I heard Diana speak about asking you to put a delivery service here, and I would like to second that. I believe in delivery service because there are many veterans who are homebound that use cannabis as medicine to help keep them off opiates and other, benzos that the VA will give to them, just without any kind of pain management therapy or anything like that. For example, the VA hospital, after my shoulder surgery, they didn't know when I was going to be able to have a post-op appointment, so their solution was to send me home with 100 Percocet. I was unable to drive or do things like that after my surgery, and I myself do use cannabis as medicine. With a delivery service, being homebound, it's an excellent option for our disabled veterans. So I would also like for you to consider putting delivery service in your town on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Jennifer Noska. I came from Tracy tonight to speak with you all. Over a year ago, I came off of all my medications using cannabis only, and I started with the delivery service, and I wasn't comfortable going to a dispensary then, so I did delivery services. That's where I found the medicine that changed my life. I haven't gone back to prescriptions. I haven't taken an Advil over a year, and I actually now work for the company that makes my medicine, and I go to dispensaries like Deanna at Riverbank Cannabis Collective here in your town, and I educate people on how to use it, the best way to use it, what it does, what it can do for you, what it's done for me. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. I think what they're doing at Riverbank Cannabis Collective is a beautiful thing as well. I think opening it up, allowing people to come in and maybe do yoga. Like, I couldn't do yoga, I couldn't even walk until I started cannabis. And that was the first thing that was like, wow, I can get out, I can move, I can get fresh air. And that was really a big thing for me. And now I go out to Stockton so I can find yoga to where I can medicate and do my yoga. Otherwise, it's too painful. So I think that if I could do that here in your town and other people could do that, that could be a really beautiful thing for all of us. And so I just want to thank you for listening, and hopefully we can have a consumption lounge, and delivery service would be so helpful for a lot of people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you guys doing today? I appreciate you taking the time. I'm actually coming from Antigua
Your name,
today
please.
myself.
Your name and
My name's Aaron Jelsma.
city is Merced?
No, city's Manteca. I come from Manteca. I also have a shop in Oakdale where we help veterans. I'm a veteran myself. I'm actually here today to talk on behalf of Diana and them. I think being a veteran myself and having some of my own personal issues that I have, a delivery service and possibly even a consumption lounge is a big thing. I know not everybody has veteran problems, and my problems shouldn't be your problems, but when I have a problem of getting up out of bed and just trying to deal with the day, it's hard enough to then go, okay, well now I have to drive from Manteca to come all the way to Riverbank to be able to pick up medication to then go home. That in of itself can be a very, very big issue for some people. I get it doesn't seem like much, but when you have problems and the VA is shoving all kinds of medication down your throat, it can be a very hard thing to be able to get up in the morning. So thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Thank you. We'll move on to item 3, consent calendar consisting of 3A, waive reading, 3B, approval of July 23rd, 2019 City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority minutes. Item 3C, out-of-state travel request to attend Castle Annual User Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. Item 3D, a resolution approving the senior construction inspector job classification and salary range, and amending the City of Riverbank compensation plan to reflect new salary range and title for the city clerk position and the new salary range for the senior parks maintenance worker facility technician position. Item 3E, a resolution to approve a 3-year extension to the street sweeping contract between the City of Riverbank and Jilton Solid Waste Management. Item 3F, a resolution to approve a 3-year extension to the solid waste contract between the City of Riverbank and Jilton Solid Waste Management. Item 3G, a resolution to approve and adopt a revision to the bike and pedestrian improvement project list on the 2019 City of Riverbank expenditure plan project list for Measure L funds. Item 3H, a resolution to adopt the 2019-2020 schedule of fees for the City of Riverbank park amenity rentals, recreation programs, and facility rentals. Is there anyone wishing to pull any of these items?
Mayor, one point of clarification on item 3H. A updated or corrected sheet was distributed prior to the meeting, is available for any member of the public. It was regarding a question that Councilmember Campbell raised regarding grandfathered service groups. They will still pay the $100 rental fee and a $100 setup fee, which is consistent with everyone else.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Nothing from the public? Bring it to the council for consideration.
Make a motion, we approve the consent calendar as stated.
I second.
The consent calendar as stated and amended.
Council Authority Member District 1 Uribe.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3 Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.1, a resolution approving a request from the Stanislaus Bicycle Club to place a bicycle traffic safety sign as a memorial to Doug Higgs to be placed near California Avenue and Claus Road.
Good afternoon, or excuse me, good evening, Mayor and Council. On April 4th of 2019, Doug Higgs was tragically struck and killed while riding his bicycle near the corner of California Avenue and Claus Road. In the months following the incident, R.J. Corin of the Stanislaus Bicycle Club approached the City of Riverbank and requested that the City Council consider allowing a memorial bicycle traffic safety sign to be placed within the public right-of-way adjacent to where the accident occurred. The blue and white colored sign, and I think Norma will put it up here on the big screen for everyone to see, is a sign that has started to gain some traction in the Los Angeles area. Los Angeles City actually has started a program. Obviously, it's a very big city, so they have, unfortunately, a lot of bicycle-related fatalities, and so they are doing a pilot program, essentially memorializing some of those accidents in areas while also providing some public education. The purpose of the request is to educate drivers about the state law, which requires a 3-foot buffer between vehicle and bicyclists. Typically, in almost every circumstance, traffic safety signs are just that, traffic safety signs. This is a unique opportunity because it gives the community the opportunity to to place a memorial where a tragedy occurred, and also educate the public about adequate bicycle safety laws. So that's really the totality of it. The only thing I would add is that although the Stanislaus Bicycle Club offered to pay for the sign and associated installation costs, which are minor in terms of installation, we did reach out to Safety Light to figure out what it would cost to fabricate and order the sign. The owner of Safety Light is apparently an avid bicyclist and offered for the company to pay for the sign and associated hardware. So essentially, the improvement would be put in at no cost to the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The sign is in the staff report. Give 3 feet, it's the law with the bicycle, _ in memory of Doug Higgs. I'm for this. Anybody have any comments on this?
No, I think it's a wonderful idea.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public for comment.
Good evening. My name is Krista Smith. I live in Oakdale, and I'm a member and representative of Stanislaus Bike Club. And I'd like to begin with 3 thank yous. First of all, thank you, Council, for considering this resolution before you tonight. I'd also like to thank City Manager Sean Scully and the other public servants at the City Hall. Every time we encountered them, they were very helpful, professional, and supportive of our inquiries and requests. And again, thank you to Dave and Scott at Safety Light for offering to put this in at no cost. Now, a few comments on the resolution before you requesting this bicycle safety sign be placed on Claus Road. You have the background of this tragic event that led to our request, the car fatally hitting a cyclist, Doug Higgs, in a bike lane on Claus Road. But you may not know that soon after this event, there was a memorial bike ride for Doug, which had a rest stop and memorial gathering at R.J. Corwin's house, our president. And this was a well-attended event by many riders from all over Stanislaus County. At that memorial, I had a chance to talk with Doug's family members, and while I was putting my bike helmet on, getting ready to leave, his family member said to me, quote, "Stay safe out there." And I believe this statement summarizes why we are requesting the City of Riverbank to consider the placement of this safety sign. That is, with the tragic event of Doug's passing, we hope to remind everyone to, quote, "Stay safe out there." This sign reminds drivers that drivers should give bicycles 3 feet of clearance, not only because it is the law, but because it is safe. The sign reminds drivers that if the law is not followed, the consequences have real meanings to families like Doug's and to the bicycle riders on the roads. It is a reminder that might save a life or serious injury and allow the cyclist to, quote, "stay safe out there." So I'd like to thank you once again for your time this evening, and thank you for your consideration of this resolution.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, I bring it back to the council for consideration.
I make a motion, we approve item 6.1.
I second it.
We have a motion to approve and a second on item 6.1.
Council Authority Member District 1 Uribe.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3 Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.2, a resolution authorizing appropriation of matching funds for the wastewater regional recycled water project and wastewater treatment master planning studies grants.
Thank you, Mayor. This item, Michael Riddell, our Public Works Director, is going to give the report on this evening. We are really thrilled about this opportunity, and he's going to step you through what we hope, if approved, what we hope to get out of this study and where we think it may lead in the future.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. As you can see in the staff report on the background, we've been working at this for a little while, about 3 years. When we initially first started talking about this concept and looking at it, we had talked to you guys about looking for some planning grants. With the help of Neil Caldwell from KSN, we were able to put together 2 planning grants, and he presented them to the state of California, being that KSN did this work for free for us. So as we went through this to get this work done, we went through the dates of the grant applications,
And you can see through the backgrounds that it started in April of 2018, and we worked forward from there. We recently, as of October 1st of 2018, we were told by the State Water Board that we had received the grants. However, at that point in time, they were prioritizing their grants based on shovel ready. So we kind of went to the back burner for this, and we were told all along as we went along that yes, we received it, and of course if we wanted to go ahead and start work, we could, but obviously we weren't going to do anything until we had some kind of assurance in our hand that we would be receiving the money and the match. A phone call and an email, as far as I'm concerned, didn't suffice. So as we played along with this and went along with this, we worked diligently with them to try to keep getting it moved forward. And then finally we were told recently, as about 4 months ago, that yes, you do have it. Yes, it is in legal's hand, but no, we don't have any idea when we're going to get it out to you. So then came along the mayor, and he had a little bit of a discussion with some people in Sacramento, and lo and behold, it's ready to go.
It took 3 days.
Yeah. So he was able to accomplish in 3 days and what we couldn't do in 3 years. So anyway, with that being said, it is now ready to go. It is in legal's hand. We expect to see the funding agreement in about 4 weeks. So being that the two grants that we're looking at here are of match funding, obviously we're coming to council for approval of the match funding. The thing of it here that you want to keep in mind, and yes, this does say recycled water on it, on the planning grants. However, one of the major components of recycled water is putting together a process of what type of treatment plant you need to be able to accomplish this. So in other words, this is getting us a wastewater master plan for about half price, right? A wastewater master plan, if we were to put together what we're looking at and the depth that we're looking at for both sides of this, would be well over $300,000. So with that, it is staff's recommendation that you approve this planning grant and the match funding to go with it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
And Mayor, I want to add one little component. I had a member of the public call me today to ask a question about whether any future plant upgrade is only benefiting, doesn't it only benefit, was the question, those who would come here in the future, so new development. The answer is no. We're going to be forced to do something at some point to get off of a pond system. But the other component to it is there will be a charge that we're working on right now for new development to pay their fair share of any future plant upgrade.
Right. No one in the city has paid for it, so we're going to put it on the new subdivisions or new development, which is kind of disconcerting. However, we have to move forward with this. If the state comes down in 2024 like they're talking about and shutting down our pond system, there will be no money available. The sooner we move forward, the sooner we'll have monies available that we can tap into. Because once they say these pond systems are obsolete, we want you to change them, all funding dries up. Funding is out there in both the federal and the state levels. So the sooner we can get this master plan done, the more viable we are to move forward. We also are looking at a partnership or joint powers authority between Oakdale and Escalon for having a regional system that can sell the water to SSJID as well as recharging. But that's not what this is about. This is out just for planning. The political component of it will come once this master plan is developed, and that we can show the uses through this region, as well as making it multi-generational for the payment of this, and not just put it on today's development. It has to go throughout and to catch up to where we have failed in the past to collect the appropriate fees. And that's what I said to the state board.
Mayor, I'd like to thank you and also Mike for your diligence in standing tall and getting this partial money to help us do this. This is something that we've discussed over the last several years, and it is here, and the state is going to require more for water. I mean, it's just going to be a matter of time. They're going to be billing you a lot more. And we need to update our systems, and this was the first step by making this master plan that we can do this, and I think it's a great step.
Yeah, I think we're headed in the right direction. I think we should take advantage of this. Absolutely.
But move cautious.
Yeah, one other point too we need to make sure that we understand here is this falls right in line with Sigma also. With the groundwater issues that we face and this kind of thing, when we're looking at that, one of the things that I think that the State Water Board fails to look at when they look at these type of treatment plants is they're called a reclamation facility for a reason, because we reclaim the water. However, the state has never gave us credit for that all along. When we initially went through the issues with our potable water system and they gave us the notice of violation because of our use, that was one of the arguments I tried to have with an engineer with the State Water Board, and I probably should have just talked to that wall because I accomplished just as much. So.
Yeah, and as we expand our sphere of influence and the city starts to grow, we know that this will be viable, and we need to know where we're going, how we're going to get there, and so that we make sure that we have everything covered for the future, years to come. Thank you.
I need to. As you're aware, I know a little bit about this type of stuff with the job I currently have. I'm looking forward to the report to see what it says and what direction they recommend for us to go. So I'm glad you got it at a good cost.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Open it up to the public for any comments. Seeing no public comment, I bring this back for consideration.
I make a motion that we accept item 6.2 as so stated.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second on item 6.2.
Council Authority Member District 1 Uribe.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3 Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.3, a resolution approving waiver, partial waiver and/or deferral of system development fees for the One Church modular building project located at 6101 Oakdale Road.
Thank you, Mayor. Donna Kenny, our Planning and Building Manager, will step you through this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Excuse me. As mentioned, this is a proposed waiver or deferral of system development fees. For those in the audience who don't know what they are, these fees provide a method of financing an unfunded portion of system costs that are throughout the city that are reasonably related to the projected community's growth. And it's to promote an orderly and effective expansion of the public improvements, to ensure the continuation of necessary services, and to establish an equitable method for minimizing public facility and service costs. So these are charged to new construction, including an expansion or an addition to an existing project. So these are the estimated fees that would be on One Church's building permit. They actually have, they submitted their building permit and it's been reviewed and it's been approved. Now they just need to pick up their permit, which requires the payment of their system development fees. So the three that we want to talk about tonight are the water, the wastewater, and the storm drain. Excuse me. The reasons that they feel that they should be waived, I'll start with the storm drain. Let me move ahead here real quick. With the storm drain, they actually have a basin on their property from when they did an earlier project. So all their storm water does go to this basin. The Public Works Inspector has been out there and taken a look at it and believes that it is adequate for the entire property's stormwater retention. Okay. So then water and the wastewater, you may have read their request letter, and I do need to clarify just a little bit. When we first talked to them about their fees, we told them of the water connection fee and the water system development fee, the wastewater connection fee, and the storm drain, or excuse me, and the wastewater impact fees. And so we told them because there had been a building previously where this building will sit, they had capped water and sewer connections there. So we took off the water and sewer connection fees. But their understanding is that because they have these basically stubs on the property, that that's part of their system and they're not impacting the cities. But they actually are connected to the city. Those are just closed stubs. They actually, for example, for the water, they have two 2-inch water meters. So we do know that they are on our system and the sewer system as well.
Is this a replacement building?
It is.
So if it's a replacement building, what was the original building?
It's a small building right now that they used for storage, and that's why these were capped off. I'm not sure what they were before.
But didn't you have a building there before?
It was offices before, and then we turned it into storage, yes.
Okay. So what was the square footage?
Probably maybe 1,000.
Okay, and so they're putting a 2,400 square foot?
Yes.
Okay, and you're not increasing any sewer or water?
No.
And you have your stormwater?
No extra services, no extra,
Isn't there a replacement in kind?
Children are being removed from one building to a larger classroom building that's divided
No,
into five.
what I'm asking is,
Oh, I'm
if they have
sorry.
1,000 square feet and they're doing a 2,400 square feet, shouldn't they only be charged for the 1,400 square feet?
No, the ordinance doesn't reads, the answer is yes and no. Yes, if they build within a certain time frame, I believe is how the ordinance reads. Outside of a certain time frame, it's not a very long time frame. Do you know off the top of your head, Maricela, a year or two, something like that?
It's a year.
A year. They get credit, but the ordinance is written very aggressively so that if you miss that year, you're basically repaying into the system. It's a problem that, internally staff have had with the ordinance for some time.
But it is something that we look at. And if there has been a building there within a year, and I believe this is the case, that Janet would have deducted the square footage and adjusted the fee. So their request is to waive the water, wastewater, and stormwater fees, which total a little over $17,000. But they would pay all other fees, like the building permit fees, plan check fees, their county fees, any school fees they might owe, and fire district fees as well. So the recommendation was that you consider this petition and consider either waiving or deferring the water, wastewater, and stormwater fees, or partial fees, or deny the waiver request. The applicants are here if you have further questions, and I'd be happy to answer the questions as well.
So they're using our water, our wastewater, but they have the storm system. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, so they're already connected, okay.
Any extra work, and I'm understanding that the pipes are in and they're ready just to be connected to, correct?
Correct.
So it's not like we're installing them new or anything of that nature. They're just going to be hooked up to the new building, right?
Correct. That's why we didn't charge the connection fee. We will not need staff out there to connect into our main pipes.
Do they have a new water meter?
My understanding is they don't need one because they have two 2-inch water meters
No,
right now
new
that.
water meters that we, they have a new water meter, okay.
Yeah.
So we
Oh,
installed
I
a
thought you
new
meant
water
an
meter.
additional third one,
Okay.
sorry.
So we had anticipated this, okay.
I don't have any questions.
Well, me neither.
Me neither.
Any public comment? What, oh, I thought you already, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry. What's the difference between this church request and the last church request?
Can I, mind if I take that? So, from my perspective, the primary difference is the last church request that was on a parcel that had no, to our knowledge, had no building in recent memory there. It's just a parking lot. So, one of the things that's very difficult from a staff perspective is that when you get a situation like this where they're really replacing a building, is it a little larger? Yes. Is there a substantive difference compared to someone developing a brand new site? Not really. But the code is very strict intentionally, which is okay, which is why we're here, because you have the discretion to bend that if you like. But the main difference is the other church's project had no structure there in the past, so presumably they've never paid fees into the system, whereas this is a very different situation. When they built, they presumably paid fees into the system.
Any public comment?
Hi, Tracy Traub. I'm the lead pastor at One Church. First of all, thanks for considering this. We do believe, because we've had a building there, we were hooked up, that it's not going to be a greater impact on the city. We're not, like I said, we're not adding services or different ministry or functions, and we're not growing our staff at this point. Someday, we hope to. So appreciate that. And also, I don't think the impact will be on the wastewater. The minimal impact may be on the landscaping, but we are looking in all our landscaping to be drought resistant, to try to keep away from having to water, because it gets very expensive to water a lot of lawns. So that is our goal. We appreciate the consideration. And then we also, we have already started talking to engineers about future buildings 2 or 3 years down the road that will incur these, and we know we'll be facing those. So again, appreciate it, appreciate being a part of this city, and look forward to growing with you guys.
We may replay your video that you just said where you remember.
Yeah, where I'm going to be asking for waivers in 3 years. You don't save them that long, Sean. Come on. Thank you, guys.
Any further comments? Seeing none, bring it back to the council for consideration.
I would like to approve item 6.3 and waive the fees.
I second.
As you mean the wastewater, water, and stormwater fees?
Yes.
Okay. And that was a second on that?
I still second, yes.
Council Authority Member District 1 Uribe.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3 Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.4, consideration of a resolution adopting the revised general fund reserve policy. Congratulations, Reverend.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Assistant City Manager and Finance Director / Guru is going to give you a rundown of it's a conversation that's needed to happen for a long time, I think, from everyone's perspective. Riverbank is, for the first time in a long time, in a very good financial position with regard to its general fund reserves. And so now is the time to actually have a conversation about where it should be for the long term. And so she's going to talk you through that and also some policy implications.
So just a brief overview for the public. One of the best practices that has been established for all municipalities is that it's essential to maintain adequate levels of what we call reserves or fund balances to mitigate any current or future risk of revenue shortfalls or expenditure increases. Our historical reserve thresholds over the past years. In April of '95, the City Council adopted a 15% reserve, and that was revised in October of 2008, where they adopted a 10% reserve level. Since the adoption of the '95 reserve level of 15%, the city had never been able to achieve that, which is why they revised it down to 10%. In April 2015, we had this discussion with you with the prior city manager, but no action was taken at that time. Obviously, 2015, we were still having revenue shortfalls in sales tax and property tax, expenditure increases, and so we felt that at that time, it wasn't adequate or prudent to tackle that conversation to establish a higher reserve. Some of the factors that you want to consider when you're establishing a reserve level is the predictability of your revenues, how volatile are your expenditures, is there any perceived exposure to one-time or ongoing outlays, is there any potential drain on the general fund from other funds, do we have liquidity issues, are there commitments that the City Council has made for the use of those general fund revenues in the future? And what's the public's perception? Obviously, if you're holding on to reserve levels of 30–40%, then the public may perceive that you're not providing them with adequate services because those funds can be used for enhanced services such as police. When you're looking at some of the risks that your revenues and expenditures are vulnerable to, you're looking at how vulnerable they are to extreme events such as aging infrastructure that might all of a sudden collapse. How stable are your revenue sources? If we lose property tax, that's 33% of our general fund revenues that we are dependent on. Or the loss of a major sales tax generator. Our top 25 sales tax generators generate 78% of the city's entire sales tax. And then how volatile are our expenditures? We have significant increases in pension costs coming up in the next fiscal years. Our law enforcement contract that we depend on, obviously they also have cost increases that they pass on to us as well. Some of the growth risks that we have, increased demand in services from new residents. We have a new specific plan area or a new city limit area that has been incorporated into the city. When they begin construction, those revenues are going to lag behind the services that they're going to need. So all of those new residents will be demanding services from the city where the revenues that they will be paying, such as property taxes and any increased sales tax, will lag behind. And so we will have to make a determination as to how to fund new staff, new police services, in order to adequately suit their needs. And then our dependency on other funds. Currently, we're looking at deficits in our gas tax fund operations, and then any potential deficits we might have in our community center funds because of the fee waivers. So when I did this little test, this is a process that you go through with an organization called GFOA, which is the Governmental Finance Officers of America. We were looking at a reserve target level of 25 to 31%. Now, I know that is not realistic for a community that's our size. So when looking realistically at what our expenditure volatility is, what our revenue volatility is, we are proposing to you a range of 13% to 15%. We would love to get to that 15% level, and over the past 2 fiscal years, we have gone over and above that 15% level. So we feel confident that we will be able to meet that. But we also understand that there are going to be times and years when the City Council may have to use our reserve funds for one-time capital expenditures or for an emergency. And so dropping down to a 13% level, we feel is still adequate for the city to hold those funds. So some of the other items that you want to look at is what are our budgeting practices. We've had very prudent spending over the past 2 years. Our borrowing capacity, so we only have one outstanding bond in the water fund. Otherwise, we are pretty much debt-free. We also have current commitments of the general fund. There's no commitments that the city council has made at this point in time, so those are not items we have to consider. And then, as I mentioned, outside perceptions. If we were to tell our residents that we needed to raise our reserve target level to 31% as compared to 10% currently, that's not going to sit well with them, especially if there are concerns about public safety or concerns about having adequate staff to meet their needs. So our general fund, some of the policy amendments that you saw in the draft reserve policy, and that's one of the larger focuses that we want to have, is what do we do with the reserve levels that we have now? What authority do you give staff? What authority does the city council have? And what if we go over and above that established threshold? What can we do with the funds at that point in time? So one of the first policy amendments that I would like to make is the current practice is that we take a set percentage of all general fund revenues. That includes grant funds, that includes one-time monies, that includes any salary, if we receive any reimbursements for salary. That's really not an adequate way to actually do your calculation, because those one-time revenues are one time. You're never going to generally see those again. And so establishing a reserve level for the future based on one-time revenues is not prudent, because next year you're not going to have that funding source. That already is going to make a shortfall on your calculation. So the proposed practice is going to be that only a percentage of your discretionary revenues, so your sales tax, your property tax, and it would include any one-time reimbursements that we've received or one-time grants. The second is the use of the reserve. So the current practice is if there is an emergency, or if the city council or city manager have deemed that there is a project that is of high priority, then we come to you and we ask for an allocation. What we would like to do is that instead, we would like to set aside funds automatically for economic uncertainties. So we know, number one, we want to mitigate any future economic uncertainties. For example, we've heard probably over the past 5 or 6 years that a recession is coming. I've been hearing that more frequently over the past 3 weeks than I have over the past couple of years. And so we know it is coming soon. So we want to make sure that we have funds available to be able to mitigate the shortfalls in revenues that we will most likely see. Emergencies such as catastrophic losses of critical infrastructure is the second item that we want to focus on. If we have, for example, the roof collapses at City Hall, we want to make sure that we're able to tap into that funding immediately without having to come to council. And then in third priority is other future one-time capital needs that we feel we may want to tackle that otherwise would not have a funding source. So the authority to allocate those reserves, if it's for economic uncertainties, the city council would have the authority. We would come to you with our proposal for us to set aside a certain percentage of that reserve for future economic uncertainties. For emergencies, it would be the city manager who would have immediate authority for spending any funds, and then we would come back for subsequent approval to the city council. Same for any capital items. We would have the authority for the city manager to make that decision, and then we would have subsequent approval by the city council. Now, the allocation of the excess fund balance, as I mentioned, if we have any extra surplus funds, we would look at offsetting future deficits. We would look at offsetting anticipated intergovernmental impacts. For example, we know that there are state mandates coming down to the city. The city manager and I had a presentation today about future mandates on recycling, and those are going to increase demands on staff as well as on our contract providers in terms of recycling. So we want to make sure that we can mitigate that without significantly impacting our budget. Reappropriating to future years for one-time expenditures. transfer costs to other funds that have deficits. For example, the gas tax fund will face a deficit in the next fiscal year. And so we will need to look at how we address that. Transfers to capital improvement funds for future capital funds as well. If at any time we needed to tap into that reserve for economic uncertainties, then it would be my responsibility and the city manager's responsibility to come to you with the plan of how to address that. Not only would we spend the funds down that you've allowed us to spend down in order to mitigate that impact, but we would come to you with a plan on how to replenish that. So if at any time we needed to fall below the 13% threshold, then we would come to you with a plan on how we would achieve bringing that back up to that threshold. And so our recommendation for tonight is looking at the proposed changes that we are making to the current reserve policy and then establishing a revised policy and a revised threshold of 13 to 15%. And I'm available for any questions.
Yeah, I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail on the head. CalPERS is still only about 70% funded right now, and I've been hearing the same thing. The recession is looming, and I do like that 13 to 15% range, so I'd be on board with this new proposed practice.
Just a quick question. I'm on the Transportation Committee for the League, and they were talking at our last meeting very hotly and highly that they feel that the gas tax is going to go away. The state, the legislature is looking really hard, and I have no idea how they're going to do it. They want to put a mileage tax on us. So if that were to happen, that gas tax disappeared, we just supplement it with the mileage tax, I guess, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The general fund would need to be able to take on all of those expenses related to gas tax.
Not a question, just a comment. I just think that I'm glad to see that we're doing well at this point in time today, but who knows what's going to happen in the future. So I don't want to set anything too high that is unachievable for the future, and I think that the proposal is a good idea. But do we have to come up with, I said I wasn't going to ask a question, but do we have to come up with a specific number, or we can use that range, 13 to 15%?
It's at the discretion of the city council. We felt that the range was appropriate so that we knew we had a goal that we wanted to achieve at maintaining it at 15%. But if we did have those times when council wanted to spend revenues or reserves down for a one-time project or for economic uncertainty, then you would be comfortable with the 13% mark.
Okay, so the range is good.
Yes.
I am in agreement with.
And well, and just to, because I kind of know what you're thinking a little bit. The range, if you're just kind of thinking about generalities, what does 2% mean? In our current general fund, it accounts for $200,000 to $250,000. So it's not a lot of money, but it's enough money to do some kind of project if you wanted to.
I want to just add one other thing. This is kind of a big moment for us. 2 years ago, we were talking about we were going to be lucky if we got a 3% general fund or even less. So I just think everybody can feel really proud of where we're at with what staff has done, what we've done, and even what our employees have done to help get us there.
I have a comment, a prognostication, and recommendation. Right now, the state of California, well, the League of California Cities is recommending that you set 25% aside for inverse condemnation based on major catastrophes, such as what happened in Santa Rosa, the Paradise, etc., which will do nothing but maintain your level of services, because if you lose a house or you lose a subdivision, you lose revenue. But you still have to pay for all the services for that loss. So 25%, that's not part of your reserve. That is to be set aside, recommendation for inverse condemnation. Should we plan for that? And if so, how should we plan for that?
Well, I think that's where the discussion comes in about your surplus, your excess reserve. So for these 2 past fiscal years where we've been over and above the 10%, that's the amount that you want to look at perhaps setting aside for that. And so you still have your reserve level that you're looking at in case you have that uncertainty or that one-time capital expenditure you want to meet. But if you're looking to set aside funds for that specific project, then you would just want to set aside from your surplus reserve.
As you know, the state just authorized the utilities, PG&E, to start charging for their air. And in the case of the cities, the state is asking the cities to pay for their air. So, and I don't know what would be appropriate. I know that'll never happen to Riverbank, but we have a 9-inch pipe that goes right underneath it that could rupture at any time. And to shut it off, you still have hundreds of miles of water coming right on out. So I agree with that. We also need to set aside funding for CalPERS, their liabilities, as well as inverse condemnation, as funds become available, whether we pay it off or we set it aside to pay it off as it's required for CalPERS. But I'm in agreement.
So what I envision is that when the books are closed out and the 5-year financial forecast is presented to the city council, then at that point in time, we have the conversation about what do we do with the excess reserves that we have.
Okay. All right, this is open to the public. Do you have any public comment? Seeing none, I bring it back for the city council for consideration.
Make a motion, we approve item 6.4 with a general fund reserve target of 13 to 15%.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve item 6.4, 13 to 15% general fund reserve target in 2 seconds.
Council Authority Member District 1, Uribe.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2, Fossey.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3, Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.5, workshop on this.
I'm so sorry, Mayor. The recommendation was the 13 to 15%. Was there also the intention, Vice Mayor, to adopt the policies that were also proposed within there? Oh, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to, there was, under the recommendation, there was 2 sections. There's the reserve range, the 13, 15%, but there's also a council action needed on the reserve policies that Maricela stated, which is like emergency use of funds and that kind of thing. So the city attorney kind of feels like we probably need to take some action on that item or include it in the original.
But for the reserve of economic uncertainty, emergency reserves, you discussed that, and capital needs?
Correct. So the draft policy that was included in the staff report is what we were looking for approval of as well.
I have some questions on that.
Okay.
One of the questions I have is, one of your slides talked about having approval for the city manager to move forward on a project. I think we need to put a dollar amount in there. Most cities do. Up to 300,000, he can approve and get it going and then come to council. I think it's important that everybody knows what that amount is and that they can go to him and get it right away. I don't know.
I believe that. In my opinion, that should be a different topic, where we top it off, because this is for the general fund reserve policy is what we're looking at. Well, and I do agree, and I don't think 300,000 would be appropriate. I think 50,000 for him.
50,000 is pretty low.
5,000 is what he currently has.
Which is why I
But, you know, sometimes they approve it multiple times. Perhaps what, in this instance, I think the way that Maricela structured it was to have widespread authority. Or we're not talking the lights went out, you know, in an office. This is massive problems where, frankly, as long as I'm in the seat, I'm going to do that regardless, just because there's not going to be time for a meeting. We're going to have to act immediately. We are going to be bringing a separate ordinance for just general budgetary authority for me, where you guys can hammer out what's an appropriate amount. Anything more than 5,000 would be very much appreciated, because it's a real pain.
Especially
in a $10 million general fund, it's a real pain.
Especially when you have a 7th Street outfall failure, and you had to get immediately $35,000 just to shore it up.
Yeah. Or the other one we ran into last year was, a massive well failure over a weekend. But the point is that this particular policy is, as Marisola had designed it, is for those absolute, rim fire kind of earthquake sort of situations where we immediately need to spend.
So you're saying we need to vote on that separately?
I thought we covered it, but go ahead, vote on it separate. Go ahead, Darlene.
I'm voting on it separately, no. This will be for, what's the language you want?
Just approve the recommendation of staff of the reserve policy as proposed.
Okay, so I am making a motion to approve the recommended staff policy.
I'll second it.
Okay, we're approving the resolution to the revised general fund reserve policy.
Correct.
And a second.
Yep.
Council Authority Member District 1 Uribe?
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey?
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3 Campbell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.5, workshop on SB2 planning grants program, tiny houses. And considerations of a resolution authorizing application for and receipt of SB2 planning grant program funds.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another item we're very excited about this evening. I think, apologies to any city in Stanislaus County that may have already done this, but to my knowledge, I think we are the first in the county to consider tiny houses and ordinance changes to allow them here. This was something that the mayor's brought up a number of times. A number of other council members have said, hey, we really need to look into this as alternatives for housing, and also works into what we're trying to do with our homeless population and transitional housing. So Donna's done a lot of work on this, a lot of research, and it turns out that there's a lot of work to do to make sure that we can pull this off. So she's going to explain that.
Well, good evening again. So we all know California is in a housing crisis. The state requires the countywide according to the state, the countywide housing need is over 21,000 units. And Riverbank's general plan estimates we could do about 10,000 by 2025. But looking what we have on the horizon with Crossroads West and new units on the east side, we're not going to be able to make our 2025 general plan prediction, or estimate, excuse me. When you think tiny houses, you think, oh, I'm just going to order one and move it right in. Well, there's a lot of considerations. Should it be mobile? Should it be permanent? Should the size be less than 900 square feet, which right now in the R1 zoning district, a minimum house size is 900 square feet. The placement, should they be accessory dwelling units in the residential areas, or maybe a compound in the R3 district, or what's the purpose? Is it for a homeless shelter? Is it permanent housing? Could it be used for Airbnb? The process and fees, should staff review it? Should the planning commission review it? If it went to the planning commission, say you want to do some tiny houses, site plan and design review is $2,000, and some of these tiny houses are $5,000 to $10,000 a piece. Then when you throw in impact fees, the fees are probably 5 times more than the cost of the house itself. There's a grant opportunity through SB2 that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And basically this item is asking direction for staff concerning that grant. So here you see on the left side the mobile unit, and then the right side is the permanent unit. There isn't much difference except for can you move it or not. Tiny homes range in size in other cities and states. Some of them are quite large, like the 900 square feet. The International Residential Code shows how to review a 400 square foot unit. They're all different too. Santa Rosa allows what they call a junior accessory dwelling unit of 500 square feet that has no plumbing. You basically use it like an extra bedroom, and the person using that bedroom joins the family for dinner and showers and recreating, socializing. You have to consider placement and zoning. Some cities only allow them as accessory dwelling units. Some allow them as standalone structures. If we were going to permit them in Riverbank, what is the best zoning district? Would it be R1 if you're going to have an accessory dwelling unit? Would it be R3 if you want a family compound? I'd read an article online, I believe it was a group of women in Colorado. 4 women went together, bought a piece of property, and built 4 tiny houses. They share one car, they cook together, they have their own little community into retirement. So it's something we might look at as well. Or should it be on the public, quasi-public land? Should we use it for homeless housing? Maybe put it on a piece of property that the city doesn't utilize and have a nonprofit run it as transitional housing. So again, what is the purpose? Is it temporary? Is it permanent living? Again, the process and the fees. Currently, the impact fees for accessory dwelling units in the city is $27,500. Architecture and site plan review over $1,500. So with those type of fees totaling over $40,000, it's no wonder people haven't looked at this option yet. The American Planning Association recently released a report on fee structures and mechanisms that are based on case studies. It's something we could look at is if we are going to have tiny houses and we are going to reduce the fees, how do we go about that and what is fair? So the SB2 Building and Jobs Act, it did establish a $75 recording fee on real estate documents, but it allows us to get technical planning grants in order to look at housing for our communities. So my thought was to apply for a grant that would get us a consultant, and the consultant would review our zoning ordinances and our downtown specific plan to see what type of houses, tiny houses might work for us. Maybe conduct a workshop, bring the community in, and find out what it is they want to see in tiny houses. The deadline for this funding request is the end of November, and my understanding is that it's not competitive. If you have a good grant and submit for it, that you will get funding for it. So I guess some of the questions from my reading and research is, should we consider tiny houses for an option in the city? If so, what range of sizes? What zones should they be constructed in? Their purpose, the appropriate process for project review. What about required parking? Do we require parking if somebody has a tiny house? And should staff move forward and apply for this planning grant, which is technical assistance to help us take a look at the program, look at our resources, look at our ordinances, and help us to decide how we want to move forward on this issue. So there is an attached resolution on here that is part of the grant application. If you feel comfortable moving forward and allowing us to apply for this grant and approve this resolution, I'll go ahead and put that grant together and make sure it gets in on time. If you still want to see a little bit more information, or I don't have any numbers now on what that consultant would cost. I am looking at that right now and reaching out to several consultants. So I don't have those numbers yet, but I believe the consultant and possibly the fee study might be $100,000 or less. And there's no matching funds required for this grant. So I'd be happy to answer any more questions you might have. And
So when I saw this on the agenda, I got pretty excited. So I actually started watching the Tiny House Nation on Netflix.
Nice.
Since I'm on bonding leave right now. I did stop after the 3rd episode though. What I would like to see is I would like to apply for that grant And then based on the requirements of that grant, maybe do a workshop off of that.
Do we know the time frame for the grant application? Will we have enough time to do what we need to do to get the technical assistance?
I believe so. Well, the technical assistance comes after you win the grant.
Oh, okay.
The money is to provide us with that technical assistance.
Okay.
And the NOFA was out in March, and some of the larger cities were ready for this. And so as they put their applications in, they are being reviewed and approved all along. They're not going to wait for one deadline. Well, there is a deadline of November 30th. It's a cutoff date. Mm-hmm. But throughout this process, say if I were to be able to apply next month, then we might even have an answer before November 30th.
Another thought that I had about some of the tiny houses that I have seen are right on the street. And I think that's something that we need to consider if we want it to be on property, you know, on land, or, because to me, being right on the street just means, again, that it's just a homeless situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not on the street per se, you're enclosed, but you're still, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So it's just like, to me, putting a Band-Aid on a situation where that Band-Aid is just gonna be saturated and come off and not really be any good.
I support you going for the grant immediately. There's so many things that have to be figured out here that we need all the help we can get to make the right decisions.
What are the standard agreements pitfalls that we may fall into?
The pitfalls.
Then we have the standard agreement.
Yes.
Okay, and in that standard agreement for the SB2,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if we commit to this funding, do we have to commit to the execution? I think you do on this one.
You have to. Sorry, you have to commit to the execution of completing the feasibility and fee study analysis. We'll confirm that with all the grant docs, but you do not have to commit to any specific land use policy.
But that's what's stated in the SB2.
Well, my understanding is a 2-year program. The first year it's technical assistance to cities. The second year we could actually apply for funding for the tiny houses themselves.
Right. So the second round of the NOFA, if you go in for that, then yeah, you got to build them.
So you're saying that we don't have to redo the land designation use for tiny houses,
Correct.
but we just have to have that available to show the state, hey, we did the study? Because you have to show it to the state.
Right. We would have a consultant that would do the study and have it packaged for the state to show them how we can move forward with tiny houses. Not the actual product itself, but the amending our code, finding the property, lowering the fees, everything that would put in motion the possibility of us purchasing or allowing tiny houses.
Okay. Let's say you have a tiny house and you're going to cookie cut it and you only have one plan check. Is that feasible? That cut down a lot of your plan checks.
Oh, yes. In fact, in talking with the planning directors of Stanislaus County, we were talking about, with the second year funding, going in together and purchasing plans that are already reviewed for either accessory dwelling units or tiny houses. So a person could come into the counter and pick maybe one of 5 different designs, and if they pick that design, it's already approved. You just pay the fees and you go build it.
Okay. All right.
Eliminating the need for an architect or any of that would save a lot of money.
Plan checks.
Yeah.
Just to note, someone told me that you could buy the ready-made tiny packages up to 700 square feet off of Amazon that are ready just to put together. And if that's the case, you know, I see that as doing something with our codes, you know, as far as our inspectors and whatnot, when you get a package deal like that too, for hookups and whatnot, you know, but there's just a lot out there that we've got to look at.
Yes, because some of those packages may not be compliant with California standards, which are among the strictest. So whatever packages do come in, hopefully we would have a choice of 5 or 6. Those would all be reviewed with California standards before our people could choose them.
Would they, this is, are they gonna have to have fire, the sprinkler systems, but I'm not gonna go there yet.
It'd be too
We
small
gotta find out
for
more.
that.
We have like 20 of those.
Okay, any other comments? Any public comment?
I want to come up here to commend the city of Riverbank. You guys are the city of action. You guys don't play around. When stuff comes up, you guys are ready to work on it. You guys are ready to take the lead. Always taking the lead in everything that comes to you guys. And I think this is an awesome idea. If you go on to Craigslist, Zillow, any of the housing websites, there's not enough housing. If there is housing, they're like 4 and 5 bedrooms. There's no small housing for the young people or for the elderly people or the people who just may live alone. So this is a really good opportunity to bring in single and maybe double people residents.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Come on up.
John Seaman, longtime resident of Riverbank, City of Action. After the meeting, if someone could tell me what's going on with the museum next door, the lack of docents.
This isn't the time for that, not even bringing it up. Sorry, you're out of line.
Okay, I want
This is
to.
about this comment here on item 6.6. Or 6.5.
I want to thank the Riverbank News for putting me on page 2 while you were on the front page. American Veterans First is a very active organization, and I appreciate the fact that Mr. Duke Cooper, the founder, I didn't know he was going to put it in the paper, but I want to thank anyone that had anything to do with this, and AVF is getting stronger all the time. Thank you, everybody.
Bring it back to the council for consideration.
See if I get the wording right. So I'll make a motion, we approve item 6.5, resolution to apply for the grant and a workshop to follow.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second on this, on item 6.5.
Council Authority Member District 1 Uribe.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3 Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 7.1, staff comments. Thank you, Donna.
Mayor, I think we missed item 6.6.
Oh, I know what's gonna happen.
Did it on purpose. Yeah.
We're gonna continue this until after the conference. Item 6.6, designating of a voting delegate and alternates to attend the 2019 League of California Cities Annual Conference.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you know, the full council, myself and Norma will be attending the league conference this year. There is a voting day at the very end of the conference where cities vote on various items. It's at the very, very end of the conference when everybody wants to skedaddle out of there. And so the council should identify a member to stay to cast the city of Riverbank's vote and an alternate.
I'd like to nominate the mayor.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to nominate Darlene.
Oh, as an alternate?
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve the mayor as the primary and the vice mayor as the alternate for the voting at the League of California Cities 2019 conference.
I'd like to make a motion that happen.
Okay.
That's what you said.
Right, and a second? We had a second. We had a first and second on both of those. Go ahead.
Council Authority Member District 1 Uribe.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 3 Campbell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, just for the record, who is flying and who's driving? Who's flying?
Flying.
Everybody's flying, so you have to get.
Al's driving.
But I'm gonna go down ahead of time because I've gotta be there at I gotta be there on Wednesday morning at 9.
So do I.
I know. But my wife's gonna go with me, and we're gonna a couple days early to do some things.
And you're gonna take off early? You're not gonna be there
No, I'm
for the
gonna be there
voting?
early.
The most important portion?
I don't have to be there. We have somebody representing us.
All right, item 7.1, staff comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's been said plenty of times tonight, but just to add one more time, on behalf of the staff, just an awful situation yesterday with the sanitation worker that lost his life, serving our community, which is really what I think gets us all. So a number of us will be at the vigil tomorrow night. It is not something the city is putting on, but we'll be participating and pushing out that information for folks. So I think that's all that's really needed to be said tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Uribe?
So I do have a Stanislaus Homeless Alliance committee update. We held our last meeting on August 14th, and we discussed a new project in the works called the Kansas House Project. So the Housing Authority are in talks with the owner of the American Budget Inn to buy the 103-room motel at Kansas Avenue and Highway 99 and turn it into permanent supportive housing for homeless. It will provide homes for 150 to 200 people, and the goal is to have it ready by December in preparation of the closure of the Modesto Outdoor Emergency Shelter. I also mentioned to the committee our intent to request heat funding in the future for the city of Riverbank's host house style project. And I do have an update for our Shaw Learning Retreat. It's going to be October 4th. New locations to Lida Library from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and it is open to the public. Thank you.
Fossey?
I would just like to say that I'm proud to be from the city of Riverbank. After last night's unfortunate accident, I feel like the city has just taken their arms and thrown them around their family. And I love seeing that that's how this community is. I also would like to remind everybody school is back. Yay. And to watch when you're driving, make sure that you get your kids to school on time, but don't make it a 50, 60 mile per hour around Enox, because I'll be there. Thank you.
Campbell?
Mrs. Seaman, I'm glad to see you here tonight. And just sort of to respond to what you're talking about, the Riverbank Historical Society is a volunteer organization. We are lacking volunteers. Some of our docents are sick. One of them broke their arm. One of them's taking care of his sick husband. So if you could stir some people up to join us, we can use them. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I want to thank everyone that came out for National Night Out, especially our first responders. It was a great event at both of the locations. And I'm also excited to hear that the awesome news about Crossroads West is officially a part of Riverbank. And thank you to Sean, our attorneys, and all of our staff that worked so hard and diligently on making that happen. And also let you know that I attended the Highway 132 dedication for Deputy Dennis Wallace. And it was a great event, but sad because we have to, get to that point. That's just a sign of the times, and it's just so sad to hear there are so many of our first responders that are losing their lives for really just nonsense throughout the whole nation. And just pray for all of them. I think that might be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. Could you get the young lady that was talking about the homeless, give her an update on what we're doing with Host House and Self-Help Enterprises? For all of you who want to know, Self-Help Enterprises is an organization that does affordable housing. And that 7th Street subdivision we approved not too long ago this year, if you guys remember, that was the gated community. They would like to take that over for affordable housing. That would be very nice for affordable housing to get that boost. At the same time, we're talking with Host House, and if we can get that, I want a commitment on that funding so we can move forward with the purchase of Host House, follow-on housing, training of staff, and opening the Host House in January. I want to also, when we get the spatial analysis, start coming with a plan. We need to protect our Riverbank Police Services and our city employees with some type of new construction from the crazies that are available to come on out. We've had, 4 weeks ago in the staff report, there was a individual high on drugs walking around, chief, your police cars in your parking lot. And that to me is very concerning. The person who was stabbed, who walked into South City Hall, that was very concerning. So what I would like to do is move forward as fast as possible, looking for funding, look at future funding that we will be receiving from different sources such as the LRA, and look at borrowing against that to start the construction, because an accident can happen, but so can a crazy happen. So with that, I'd like to go to closed session consisting of item 8.1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision Bravo of Government Code 54956.9, 3 potential cases. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 Alpha. Name of case, Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District versus the City of Riverbank and DOES 1-20. Stanislaus County Superior Court, case number CV 19004402. Item 8.3, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 549568. Property 062-031-005 through 007. Agency negotiator Sean Scully, City Manager. Property negotiator Ametis Inc. Item 8.4, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.6, 54957.6. Agency representative Sean Scully, City Manager. Unrepresented employees, Public Works Director, and Assistant City Manager, Director of Finance. With that, the public has the ability to comment on any of these closed section items. They're limited to 5 minutes to comment. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we adjourn to closed session.
of lawsuits when we just got rid of a bunch.
I know.
The regular city council and LRA board meeting is now back in session. Item 9.1, report from closed session on item 8.1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, 3 potential cases. Direction has been provided to staff. Item 9.2, report from closed session on item 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District versus the City of Riverbank and DOES 1-20. Direction has been provided to staff. On item 9.3, report from closed session on item 8.3, conference with real property negotiators and Metis Inc. Direction has been provided to staff. Item 9.4, report from closed session on item 8.4, conference with labor negotiators, unrepresented employees, Public Works Director, and Assistant City Manager, Director of Finance. Direction has been provided to staff. This meeting is now adjourned. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 10th.